They need volunteers. The search is going to be in a perimeter around Saxey and Wiley area. It's tomorrow, Saturday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So the table, the brothers are standing outside. If you have time, if you can, and if you should, inshallah, please sign up with them, help them, inshallah, tomorrow, 11 to 1 p.m. That's number one. Number two, vaccinations. If you have taken the vaccinations here, shot number 1, you can come here tomorrow for shot number 2. If you have not taken any vaccination, you can come here, not tomorrow, sorry, Sunday, from 2 to 5 p.m. inshallah. Both shots 1 and shot 2. If you are taking the second shot, please come. If you are taking the first shot, please come as well. 2 to 5 p.m. inshallah, Sunday. It was supposed to be Saturday, but it's moved to Sunday. Just remember the change of the date, inshallah. That's number 1. Now, on Saturday, we also have the conference, as you have heard. All of us, we have heard and we get excited as and when we see the news, the situation, and then when the news dies down, we also tend to feel that everything is back to normal. It's actually the opposite of it. It's not back to normal. The least we can do is make ourselves aware of the situation, understand the history, what is the situation, what's the rhetoric, and how to counter that. That's the purpose of this conference tomorrow. We have international speakers right here at EPIC from 2 to 6:30, inshallah ta'ala, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. between Zohar and Asr, inshallah ta'ala. The speakers are international speakers. One of the speakers is right here, Dr. Hatem Bazian, inshallah. He's our khatib for today, and he'll talk more about it, inshallah ta'ala. But if you know, first you come, second, invite others as well. It's going to be in the gymnasium, so make sure lunch is served, inshallah. So looking forward to see you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على حي على الفلاح حي على الله أكبر الله أكبر
الله
لا إله إلا الله.
قال لا إله إلا الله بهذه الدعوة التامة. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستغفره ونتوب إليه، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله، أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. عباد الله، أوصيكم وإياي بتقوى الله، أوصيكم وإياي بتقوى الله، أوصيكم وإياي بتقوى الله. واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا، وكنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فأنقذكم منها. الحمد لله على نعمة الإسلام، الحمد لله على نعمة الإيمان، الحمد لله على نعمة حبيبنا وسيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. الحمد لله على نعمه كلها ظاهرها وباطنها. الحمد لله على نعمة يوم الجمعة يتلاقى فيه المؤمنون ويتلاقى فيه المسلمون ويتبادلون السلام. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أما بعد, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says, وَذَكِّرْهُمْ بِأَيَّامِ اللَّهِ. That reminds them of the days of Allah. And this is a statement that is directed to the believers to reflect upon the history of the world. Because history is really where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings His power, majesty, as well as complete disposal of the affairs. We also have in Surah Al-Rum that here is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Arabian Peninsula, and he is commenting, and the Quran is revealing غُلِبَتِ الرُّومُ فِي أَقْصَى الْأَرْضِ, that the Quran is revealing and commenting on the defeat of the Romans, which the Quraysh were happy because they had an affinity and thought that they have close ideological, theological affinity with the Persians, who were Zoroastrians, fire worshippers, while the Romans, which would be the Byzantine Empire at the time, was of the Abrahamic faith, and therefore they were seen to be closer to the prophetic tradition. So the Quraysh were elated that the Romans were defeated. So the Quran came with the revelation, which was a miracle, because the Quran predicted, or not predicted, but the Quran informed that the Romans will be victorious in a few years, and sure enough, they became victorious. So this is my segue into discussing the subject of Palestine, because we often have, why Palestine, right? Why the question of Palestine? It's not from a numerical, in terms of number of deaths. For sure, it is not the most intense conflict where you have a large number of deaths. You know, I'm a historian, right? I could document the Iran-Iraq war. I could speak of our Afghan brothers and sisters who have been facing bombs and destruction from '79 till now. We could speak of our brothers and sisters in Myanmar, the Uyghur in China, and even you could speak about the Somali community and what they face. So by sure, it is not an issue of numerical numbers of death and destruction, for sure. So what is it that makes Palestine the cause that it is, and also why Muslims are responding to it in different ways than they would respond to others. Again, this is from hikmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One, we have to understand that Palestine is part of our aqeedah, part of our belief, because again, we just recited the Quran in Ramadan. You recited Surah Al-Isra, سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حوله. Right? So that's, and our prayers were prescribed to us in the heavens as a result of the episode of the Isra and the Mi'raj. So there is that uniqueness to it that is connected to us and our revelations and the Quran speaking about it. But let me give you maybe a few items to think about in relations to Palestine. One, Palestine was not occupied or colonized in 1948. That's very important. Palestine was not occupied or colonized in 1948. Palestine was colonized by the British in 1917. And one asked the question, what was the interest of the British in 1917 in Palestine and in the region? Now, many of us today, we know the term Middle East, right? I don't know where is that at. It's in the middle of what you call, it's a constructed term that the British framed in relations to India. And when they were thinking of this region, they were thinking about protecting their colonial possession in India. Now, I know many of you in here, possibly from the Indian subcontinent, right? And in some corners, the British say that, look, what we have done, we developed India. That is like the biggest joke that could be actually entertained. Even in Comedy Central, it will be still an obscene joke. Because the British have took out of India a total of $15 trillion. And if you haven't examined the famine that they have caused, the death and destruction, I think you should visit this, because again, the British often, they let us entertain us with their weddings. I often say that the British actually, as a whole, the royal family should be actually prosecuted for war crimes and have to pay reparation, not only for India, but much of the world, including Palestine. But the British, when they were thinking about Palestine, they began a whole project, both theologically constructed, because the whole imagination of the return of Jesus, from their perspective, speculative theology, as well as protecting their trade. The first to introduce the idea of a Jewish state was not Jews. Actually, we have, even before the British, Napoleon himself, when he came to Egypt in 1796-97, during his campaign on Egypt, he actually called on the Jews to come and support him because he wants to restore them back to Palestine from a Christian theological perspective, thinking that this is the stepping stone. This is again interpreting religious text and moving it into policy. So they issued and began to strategize from a colonial perspective. So Palestine is the last settler colonial project to be commissioned by Great Britain. And alhamdulillah, it's no longer great because only Allah is great. Right? So the British commissioned this to secure their trade with India, because all of the trade passed through Egypt and the Suez Canal by the time. And just a couple of months ago, when the ship was stuck in the Suez Canal, we came to know that the 12 to 14% of global trade passes through the Suez Canal. So it was even more critical then as it is today. So Zionism itself was born out of a European idea of colonization and accepted to be a junior partner with Great Britain. And that's why Palestine was colonized in 1917. And the British incubated the Zionist project as a way to secure their trade as well as to play divide and conquer. With that, we have what's called the Sykes-Picot Agreement that was adopted. The map of the region that we see today, none of us drew that map. We are living in maps that have been constructed to us by the French and the British and inherited by this world system that is set against us as communities in the global south. Right, so again, it's important for us to know historical progression. When Israel was declared in 1948, it was a culmination of a 50-year project, not the beginning of it. In 1948, 531 villages were completely erased. Some 780,000 Palestinians were ethnically cleansed or genocide. 8 urban centers completely emptied of their own population. So we're talking about here Plano. Think of Plano as a city completely emptied of all its population, as well as 3 or 4, 8 cities in the surrounding, emptying the houses, the banks, taking the cars, farms, the streets, the gyms that you have, everything was taken. Just to give you, just today, Benny Morris in an article, he just said, during the war, David Ben-Gurion, the provisional prime minister, said he was surprised by two phenomena. The Arabs' flight and the Jews looting. In regard to the latter, meaning Jews looting, he stated at a meeting of the Central Committee of Mabai, which is the ruling party and the forerunner of the labor, on July 24, 1948, it turns out that most of the Jews are thieves. He was talking about his own people. People from the Jerzeel Valley stole. The pioneers of the pioneers, parents of the Palmach, pre-state commando force, children, and everyone took part in it. Meaning it's a whole project of thievery, stealing every part of the Palestinian society. People left their homes holding the keys, and everything actually was stolen from 1948. So it's not 1967, it's not Gaza. 65% of the Gaza population are refugees. These are refugees that were expelled from Lid, from Ramle, from the coastal areas, from Beir Saba, ended up in the Gaza Strip, and been subject to systematic dispossession from that point on. So what I want to understand is, again, history, where it begins. And the second is that Palestine is a settler colonial project that is also having an apartheid structure. Meaning, for Muslims, we need to understand this. Just as many have resisted and challenged settler colonialism in the global south, this is what the Palestinians are facing. It is not a miscommunication. It's not what you call something that we could sit and read a text together and we'll understand. Right? Because there's some effort, or some individuals, they think it just maybe it's just a difference of opinion. If we just get them together and maybe we could get them knafe or chicken tikka masala, we could solve the issue. That's nonsense. This is a settler colonial project vested from European powers and now inherited by the United States because of oil. So just make no mistake about it. Meaning that the relationship to Israel, as well as some of these states that have been formed, these are post-colonial states, we need to understand what that means. A third dimension to this is that every time you approach central colonialism, you have to contend with the issue of race. The issue of race. There is a racial hierarchy that is still in effect. We see it with George Floyd, but we seem to be absent in recognizing that much of the global south, including Palestine, Indian subcontinent, parts of Africa, are still facing the hierarchy of race. There are still people today they think that because of a certain skin tone that you are superior than others. We have not gotten rid of this calamity, which I do think that if you look at from our own tradition, Iblis was the first racist in our consideration, because he said, I am better than him. All right? He said, I am better than Adam. And then he approximated the reason. You created me from the flame of fire, you created him from the dust of the earth. So he's approximated a wrong analogy, qiyas, right? That is inadmissible, but that's basically what you have. So you cannot approach what is taking place without understanding the dimension of race that we're dealing with in relations to Palestine and in relations to settler colonialism. We still have not undone the residue of colonization in the global south. All right? Give you an immediate part. And here again, I'm using as a frame of reference, the most used and bought cream in the global south and across parts of the world is Fair and Lovely. If you haven't used it, I use it every morning. Just kidding. It burns your skin. It's whiten your skin. Meaning, it is a product that is structurally constructs self-hate as a way to be as a human being. That's where we are. And then if you add to it all the type of augmentation, whether the eye augmentation that is prominent in Asia, or the nose augmentation that many people actually, because they want to have the aquiline, supposedly Italian nose, that is all structured as a way of us as a humans to hate ourselves, to hate what God have created. God says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. He did not say, we sent Bani Adam to a plastic surgeon. And if you're a plastic surgeon, I'm sorry, but that's essentially what it is. Because the standard we approach is a standard that are not attainable and the standards are not universal. Every human being is created with God dignity given to them. Every human being is beautiful because they contain within them the spirit of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَنَفَخَ فِيهِ مِن رُوحِهِ. You don't need a plastic surgery. You don't need Fair and Lovely. You are lovely the way you are. That's not what we're teaching. That's what essentially we continue to reproduce. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستغفره ونتوب إليه وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. So we have been witnessing the recent assault on Gaza. This is the fourth time that Gaza is being assaulted. It's the largest open air prison. But I do feel there is changes that are taking place as a result of a variety of things that are coming to the forefront. I think the response in here for the Muslim community has been qualitatively different. The response across the world has been different. I think the response of the Muslim governments, that has to be what you call set aside. I think they just took the shuttle with Elon Musk to Mars, and I don't know when they're going to come back, but again, that's my own analysis of it. But I think you could see that there is some really transformation and change that are taking place. It's accumulative. One cannot see the occurrences here in this country in relations to Black Lives Matter, the challenges that have been faced in this country with people responding in relations and connecting the causes relative to Palestine. So I don't want to take much of your time, but there are certain things that we're asking for from people. One is that if you can't help the Palestinians, please don't help their oppressors. All right? If you can't help the oppressed, don't be an aid to the oppressor. What does that mean? There's increasingly Muslims what I consider them to be Johnny-come-lately. They heap critique on the Palestinians. Again, the Palestinians are imperfect. Every colonized people, they go through all types of contradictions. But if you want to advise the Palestinians, find ways to advise the Palestinians. So don't go on camera, don't go on the radio, don't go on social media, and all what you do is just heap critique, right, upon the Palestinians. we're not perfect, but again, know exactly the challenges that Palestinians face. I come from a tradition where we were active during the anti-apartheid movement, the South African anti-apartheid movement. We had a critique of the ANC, but we actually delivered the critique to the ANC to constructively give them advice. If the choice between for you to be on camera to heap critique on Palestinians or call a Palestinians, I'd recommend to call the Palestinians before you do so. Why? Because ad-dinu nasiha, that our religion is counsel. And what we want you is to be an aid to us, right, in relations to this. Second, stop using this is what you call the two sides to an issue. Right? Why? Because again, two sides in colonizations is not the same. There is an oppressed and oppressor. There is a colonized and colonizer. Attempting to say that there is two-sidedness, which is what the media and the politicians, and again, you get the two-sidedness and you end up what you call waiting till judgment day for changes to take place. So stop using this framing. Third, we are making certain conditions for people to ask for. We are calling for immediate unconditional lifting the siege on Gaza. This is not negotiable. This is what international law for Geneva Convention asks. Right? So that's a fundamental. We're asking also for cutting aid to Israel. This is your tax money and tax. For me, if my tax money is being used to send bullets for the Israeli army, I feel that I am morally responsible and I need to do whatever I can to stop it. Right? So your role is not to go to Palestine. We have enough people that are in Palestine. You have to actually stop sending the money from here that is using the bullets to shoot the Palestinians. That's what we want you to actually, to advocate in a systematic way, all right, in order for us to make the changes that are needed. So I know that I don't want to take much of time, but tomorrow we'll have a conference. I encourage everybody to attend. We'll give you a little bit more information and context to what is taking place. I do feel that the changes in relations to Palestine is taking place, and the Palestinians are challenging the fourth largest army with 600 nuclear warheads, and they're not giving up. We have no excuse for us to give up or feel unempowered to do the things that needs to be done in here. We just have no excuse. If you're in Gaza and you continue to challenge, if you're in the West Bank, if you just saw the people that were protecting Al-Aqsa Mosque on Ramadan, facing one of the most oppressive military structure, and they did not give up. When they closed the freeway for people to come pray in Al-Aqsa Mosque on the 27th, people got out of the buses and walked, and then the Jerusalemites, Palestinians came with their cars to take people, and then they shut the other side of the freeway that's going to Tel Aviv. The Israeli army was forced to open the road, because if people can't access Al-Aqsa Mosque, you cannot access any of your life or normal patterns. That's the type of the challenges that we are facing, inshallah. So tomorrow, if you could attend, that would be great. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد اللهم إني داع فأمنوا اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا بالخير شر ما قضيت فإنك تقضي بالخير ولا يقضى عليك وإنه لا يذل من وليت تباركت ربنا وتعاليت ربنا ردنا إلى الإسلام ردا جميلا ربنا ردنا إلى الإسلام ردا جميلا ربنا ردنا إلى الإسلام ردا جميلا اللهم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على طاعتك اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه يا رب العالمين اللهم ارحم المسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات يا رب العالمين اللهم ارحم المسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات يا رب العالمين اللهم اشف مرضى مرضى المسلمين جميعا يا رب العالمين. اللهم اشف مرضى المسلمين جميعا يا رب العالمين. اللهم اشف مرضى المسلمين جميعا يا رب العالمين. اللهم إنا مغلوبون فانصرنا. اللهم إنا مغلوبون فانصرنا. اللهم إنا مغلوبون فانصرنا. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة تنهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
حقا لا إله إلا الله. استقيموا واعتدلوا أثابنا وأثابكم الله. Straighten the lines and fill the gaps. صلوا صلاة مودع. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة إن الله مع الصابرين. ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أمواتا بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون. ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. جزاكم الله خير. Sorry for going a little bit over time. جزاكم الله خير.